Flight 122 is in trouble. A broken engine and running out of fuel, it looks like they might have to perform a water landing. That is, until our hero arrives. This monster of a plane is officially called the P. Brooker Flying Landing Platform, but I call it the Plane Plane. Matching the speed of our ailing 737-100, the aircraft rises and grabs hold of the plane, securing it tightly. The Plane Plane then turns and brings the 737 back to Earth safely, landing without incident. But this rescue operation was only one use of perhaps the most versatile airframe ever built, with everything on the table from military ideas, oversized cargo, and even an insane use to catch space rockets from the sky like an aircraft carrier. Oh, and I forgot to mention, they also planned for it to take off vertically. This aircraft concept is so wild that I couldn't wait to show it to you today, and I hope you're ready to explore the nutty world of the Plane Plane. In 1961, an unusual patent was submitted to the US government. One Peachy Brooker had an idea for a new type of aircraft, one that didn't just carry cargo, passengers, or had a military use in mind. Rather, it would be an everything plane. And the concept wasn't that far-fetched. There are car trucks that transport new vehicles, there are even boats that deliver fancy yachts around the world. So Peachy, as I like to call him, thought, why not aircraft too? And this, my friends, is the madness that he came up with. The flying platform was a squat plane that looked like it had been cut in half. Running along the top would be two parallel landing tracks that would have had small claws attached to them that could move freely, but I'll get to that part later. In the patent, there was extensive attention given to the support fuselage structure, which would be needed if it was to carry a fully loaded aircraft on top. Naturally, there would be no tail, but rather two horizontal stabilizers that would actually extend out during flight to better change aerodynamics depending on the load, an invention that I don't think I've seen anywhere else on any other aircraft. There would be two small vertical stabilizers on each of these rear winglets. The patent document would highlight that this would be a propeller aircraft. After all, it was 1961, but Peachy did mention that obviously there would be a jet-powered version by the time it got into the sky. The plane would also have 3 lines of landing gears, a typical one in the nose that could be steered, one in the middle, and then at the end of the plane for load-bearing tail strikes. As they were weight-bearing, they wouldn't have the ability to retract into the fuselage. Lastly, there would be a cockpit located in the front section where the small team would sit during operations, with a window to see exactly how close they were to their quarry. Also, there was a passenger compartment that could be used in case they had to evacuate a plane on board during an operation, which is just so crazy that I'm just going to talk about it right now.
Like posters, merch, and supporting a channel and creator who has made weekly videos for you for years? That's right, the Found and Explained merch store is open, and I've tried really hard to come up with legit cool stuff for aviation fans. So check it out and let me know what you think. Link it below.
This is where the patent turns things up into overdrive. Upon hearing over the radio that an aircraft was in distress, the rescue plane would take off to perform a rescue. It would fly underneath the plane in trouble at a slightly slower speed and then allow the disabled passenger plane to fly forward, letting its landing gear roll over 2 parallel tracks. The landing gear would impact the forward arresting hooks that would snap close, and then the landing gear would fall into pits at the front, securing the passenger plane to the platform. At this point, if the passenger plane needed to be evacuated, if God forbid the plane was on fire or something, which is a real reason listed in the patent, then there would be a small chute or folding stairway that could be deployed. It's really not clear how this would work if the plane was going over 500 kilometers an hour, but I digress. Once the passenger plane was evacuated, the entire platform could be rotated at an angle of 15 degrees to allow the passenger plane to slide off, presumably on fire, into the ocean just like that. And even better, if it didn't slide off, there was a little auxiliary support arm that could be raised to, and I quote, urge the cargo to be jettisoned with a little push. Additional clamps could be activated to secure the aircraft if they wanted to go for a landing, and thanks to this flexible design, any type of plane or cargo could be secured. And then the plane would have additional braces that could be deployed to help with the weight loading. The whole plane would then presumably land safely. And I say that last word with air quotes. But an on-fire rescue wasn't just the only way he planned for this aircraft to be used. There were a vast number of other applications as well, just like catching missiles from the sky. While officially the object of this invention is to provide a large flying landing platform for disabled aircraft, Peachy had a lot of other ideas. For one, he saw this as an invaluable tool for space travel. An issue with returning spacecraft is that they need to slow down. A challenge when sometimes they're going multiple times the speed of sound. But by deploying air brakes and a parachute, a spacecraft's landing becomes less accurate. So the flying platform would solve both these problems. Okay, so before you start writing in the comments about how dumb this whole idea is, I just want you to bear with me. A rocket would be re-entering the atmosphere and the landing platform would deploy a cable not unlike an aircraft carrier. The missile would deploy a trailing hook which would grab the arresting cable. This missile would fly over the plane rapidly and then run out the cable just like a fishing rod. The plane flying platform would slowly winch the missile backwards or while going 500 miles an hour and slow down the gliding rocket. Once it was going slow enough, the plane could then slide up and grab it. The advantage of this would be that the missile would only have to halve its speed and not have to waste fuel or design choices to bring it to a complete stop. And you thought that the passenger plane on fire was insane. In addition, we also mentioned its other various cargo uses, flying disabled planes around for maintenance, and its military applications. But I have one more little nugget for you. This plane was designed to fly vertical. Peachy, being a prophet before his time, had a few more tricks up his sleeve. He saw the writing on the wall that planes were going vertical, or VTOL, and knew that his invention would also need to be future-proofed. The patent mentioned that the lift would be augmented with vertical takeoff and landing propellers, or forward propellers that could swivel to provide that lift. In addition, helicopter blades were to be attached to the wingtips and folded away during normal operations, or perhaps ducted fans would be chosen and would be buried in the central fuselage, for sure making this idea one of the most flexible platforms to date. The flying platform, or the plane, is such a wonderfully insane idea, but something like this, had it been built, would have been very useful nonetheless. Oversized cargo, like that of the space shuttle, could have been easily carried, and its use for the military likely makes you gun-ho fans salivate. Although I do seriously doubt its ability to be used for rescue operations. The risk of collision with a plane that is out of control, after all it's in trouble, is so much worse than the risk of the plane trying to land itself on the ground. Imagine if the mission failed. In the end of the day, we never got the plane, and I wish it got a lot further than just a dusty patent and a YouTube video on your favorite channel. But I'll finish with this. The patent is actually expired. So really, there's nothing stopping you, yes you watching right now, from building it today. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments.